I wanted to read y'all this article from the American Prospect. David Dayen's got a new piece out that's really good. And it's called What We Have Here is a Rudderless Ship, Thoughts on the Democratic Post-Election Drift. Now, this is all really bad news. I was like, David usually has his finger on the pulse. He's talking to elected officials, he's talking to representatives. He usually sort of understands like what the new policy shift or emerging strategy might be from the Democrats. Apparently, there is none. So we could talk about it for a second. But when we say kissing the ring, when we say like not mounting any kind of resistance, when we say there's a crisis of legitimacy, when we say I don't know if I can still trust the Democratic Party, I don't even know if I can ever go back to them, I don't know if they know that how serious shit has gotten, why are they sort of kowtowing to fascism or giving RFK Jr. a win on X, Y, or Z, I don't really know if I can trust anybody. This is why. It's because behind the curtain, there's not even the Wizard of Oz. It's just fucking Toto, man. And Toto is licking his nuts. That is what is happening right now. David writes, Democrats have a plan to take on Donald Trump in 2025. Just ask them. But if you ask all of them, but you'd have to ask all of them because they all have a different plan. John Fetterman thinks Democrats should give Trump a pardon on his bullshit hush money case, bullshit in quotes, and support his executive branch nominees, even the controversial ones. Yes, John Fetterman will be independent very, very soon. Jim Clyburn also favors a Trump pardon, but to create a clean slate for the future. A clean slate, just a smooth surface, almost like just like a place to put, the neck when you guillotine it, to wipe all the previous guillotine blood off and just come back with and I don't mean like a cool guillotine. I mean like a bad, working people lose guillotine. Many Democrats, from Adam Schiff to Khanna to Bernie Sanders, are citing points of possible agreement with Trump and Shadow Vice President Elon Musk. Some are doing this to look, quote, reasonable, others perhaps to move some discrete items forward where Trump has made rhetorical overture, others perhaps to set up an attack later if the common ground fails to emerge. And this is sort of obviously one of the things that I'm going to ask Cenk Uygur about. I think he agrees with this. Like, I'm going to lay this trap, and then in the future, I will point out how they were never serious about this. I have my doubts about whether this advocacy, I have my doubts about just who will actually be there to turn on Trump. You're talking about a cult. They don't turn on cult leaders very often, all right? There's a reason we talk about drinking the Kool-Aid, okay? This is on some I will drink the Kool-Aid. No, but women and children first. And then we'll see if you die and then I'll get away, That's what we're talking about here. Sanders and Governor Jared Polis of Colorado are playing footsie with Trump aides like Health and Human Service Secretary Designate Robert Kennedy Jr. Others, however, are highlighting specific conflicts of interest among Trump cabinet nominees. Still, others are saying nobody cares about the cabinet. Some have joined the initial entirely Republican Congressional caucus aimed at partnering with Musk's Department of Government Efficiency and its vow to cut trillions of dollars in federal spending. Some have resisted joining that caucus. Some, like Khanna, have proposed ways to cut spending while resisting joining that caucus. Yeah, Khanna, you don't want that smoke, buddy. You shouldn't do it. Some have decided the best use of their time is to concede to Republican attacks on certain issues. Okay, so far we've got pardon, work with, approve all nominees. Nominees don't matter. Join Republicans and their caucuses to gut things like Social Security and Medicare. Some have decided it's best to concede to Republican attacks on certain social issues. Read trans rights, read immigration. Some have decided it's better to elevate arguments on economic populism. These aren't mutually exclusive, but different in framing. Something pursuing a seemingly legally doomed effort to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment is the best current course. Some prefer to say nothing and look towards more advantageous political ground on the 2026 midterms. Some are in the denial phase, maintaining that the election didn't really move the needle and things will swing back. I think a lot of people are saying that. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, What are the leadership of the Democratic Party? What are they doing? Well, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries opened a press conference last week by saying the Democrats are, quote, ready and willing to be able to find bipartisan common ground with the incoming administration on any issue, while, quote, also being ready to push back against far-right extremism whenever necessary, including any effort to end Social Security and Medicare as we know it. That's not totally inconsistent, but it's unlikely to stir a dispirited party faithful either. We are cooked, people. We are like, I'm sorry, but I am so disgusted. Like, we keep retreating. They keep retreating. Do you understand? The goalpost keeps moving. The like territory they have conquered keeps moving. So that now, Hakeem Jeffries is simply just standing in front of Social Security and Medicare going, no, 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 no. Ooh, wee. That's all they've got. But we will concede on so-called cultural issues. Trans kids, they can die. They can get bullied. They can off themselves. Like any kind of like civil rights, that's fine. Workers' rights, who cares? Immigration, please. Deport all the criminals. Deport them. Oh yeah. Oh, there are definitely lots of criminals. Yeah. All that we're willing to concede on. Abortion rights. Women are already dying right now. Mothers are dying already. But like Medicare, Medicaid, please don't, please don't, please don't. You compare that to when Obama took office, right? First Black president. Everyone called him a socialist, born in abroad, as Donald Trump would say. And what did they do? They stymied everything. They absolutely put their foot down. Now, I understand that they had, not in the beginning, but they began, they had majorities in the House. And I understand that Democrats don't have majorities in the House or the Senate, but like, you're going to work with them? You're going to work. Say what you will about the inefficiency of the Republican Party. At least they know when to like gum up the works a little bit. Like, at least they know when to like stand on a hill. Their hills are not worth dying on. Their hills are more like holes. But like, Democrats they cannot actually stay. I mean, during the first Trump administration, you had things like sit-ins for gun control, if we remember that, after the Parkland shooting. There was a sit-in on the congressional floor for gun control. That was something, right? It wasn't led, you had the reaction to the Muslim ban. It wasn't led by elected officials. But other than that, there wasn't all that much coming from the inside. But now they've completely gone the other way. They're like, well, we're tired of resisting. Let's just find common ground. Fuckers want to create a mass deportation system. They want to denaturalize citizens. I'm getting really angry. If you think you can work with these people, you might just be a centrist. You might just be a low-key okay with fashion. You might, if you're not a billionaires I can understand. Like I said, protect your class. You know what I'm saying? It's the middlemen I cannot understand. It's these people I cannot understand. Who are you? Like, just think about voters. Gather round. Think about voters. Who the fuck are they trying to win over? Who the fuck's going to see Hakeem Jeffries say this and be like, yeah, that's my kind of guy. Really like for a guy that stands up for what the other party believes in and really wants to give a win to the other side. Why would you give a win to the other side? Literally on anything. On anything. And I say this very openly. Van Jones worked with Jared Kushner to get early stages in 2017 federal prison reform that did lead to the freedom of, I think, between 400 and 500 federal prisoners. Good for them. You know what it also did? It gave the Trump administration a massive win to say that they did everything for Black people, of course, because, people locked up and Black people in their minds are really the same thing. They completely used it as a banner talking point. Meanwhile, real prison reform actual broader sweeping prison reform that was being discussed, that had been discussed, where prison, reform advocates, abolitionists obviously included in that, were pushing on a whole bunch of other different levels, it completely stymied that effort. So I think it's good that those federal prisoners got early release. That is good. I actually think it was in the scope of things, a fucking loss, a huge loss. And you know what it did? It made Van Jones look like an idiot. It made him look like a dumbass. Nobody is like, oh yeah, good old Van Jones. So glad he worked to give Donald Trump a win. That's what these people want to do. Because it's the same. Look at the border. Last thing I'm going to say, look at the border. Democrats have been doing this on the border for decades now. What they do is they say, okay, we got to work with the Republicans. We got to get something done. So, okay, Republicans will allow children of immigrants who are brunette, but also have freckles, who drive a Honda Civic, and whose phone numbers end in a 6, we will allow them a pathway to citizenship in exchange for we are going to put piranhas into the Rio Grande. We're gonna release a bunch of piranhas. We're gonna do some straight Austin Powers shit, right? We're going to put medieval knights on the border, and this is and so 37 people will become citizens, and the medieval knights will murder a bunch of asylum seekers. Isn't this a perfect exchange? Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer hasn't even offered anything that mushy, instead focusing on the block and tackle of the end of the year bills, in which Democrats have a clear advantage amid a Republican rebellion on funding the government, but in which they seem to be asking for exceedingly little. So Schumer's sort of focused on the day-to-day smaller stuff. And from behind the throne, while convalescing in Luxembourg, Nancy Pelosi thought this was an opportune time amid the bedlam in the Democratic ranks to engage in a bitter factional fight over who should be the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. There's a lot to say here about the Democrats' adherence to internal institutional power over the fate of the nation, but their inability to carry a consistent message and more. And their inability to carry a consistent message and more. But I think the biggest thing is this. This is what happens when a political party doesn't have any leaders who command anything approaching respect. It breeds freelancing among backbenchers, a run for cover when they revert to relying on their political instinct, ensuring that the overall approach is incoherent. It breeds opportunism from party factions seeking to pull things in their direction, ignoring the near-term stakes of the early days of Trump's second term. Perhaps most important, even if there were a game plan for winning back a governing majority and responding credibly to November's election, who exactly would deliver it? By the way, I think, did they get Biden to write something? Holy shit. Joe Biden just wrote something for, all right, everyone needs to check out what Joe Biden. We appreciated Joe Biden's essay I think he's the president, in the prospect on his economic vision, but even he would agree he's in no position to dictate terms to the party, even if he could. The final days find him walking down blind corners in a bid for legacy items. He commuted 1,500 federal sentences on an ACLU list without reading into it, leading to the embarrassing political outcome of giving clemency to a notorious judge who locked up kids in a for-profit detention center in exchange for kickbacks. He may issue an executive order to fast-track energy and water-hogging data centers, maybe to establish himself as the man who brought forth AI, the damage to his climate agenda and the giveaway to the richest companies on the planet notwithstanding. I swear to fucking God, dude. If he greenlights a bunch of data centers, not that they're not already going to do that under Trump, but to cement your legacy, I piss on all of your legacy. I spit on it. I piss on it. I ejaculate on your legacy. Fuck your legacy. Kamala Harris is too busy considering whether to run for governor of California in 2026 or to run for the White House in 2028 to fashion an actual message for leading in either of those capacities. Other possible candidates for leadership are similarly absent without leave. Schumer was ready to bargain with Trump as far back as 2017 on infrastructure spending and hasn't committed to any grand strategy. Jeffries' articulated plan is in conflict with itself, but the bigger problem is that the Democratic Party has inexplicably forced him to lead while still wearing training wheels. Pelosi, Clyburn, Steny Hoyer, all in their 80s, gave up their leadership positions to a new guard 2 years ago, Jeffries, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar, and then bizarrely remain in the House as looming eminences, even running for re-election this year, Hoyer after suffering a mild stroke. They spend their time giving interviews and projecting power behind the scenes while overshadowing the actual House leadership and making them look like kids' table leaders without control of their charges. House oversight mess is a perfect example. If you read between the lines, you could see that Jeffries was perfectly fine with a new generation of Democrats taking power on House committees, but Pelosi appointed herself gatekeeper in this effort, endorsed Jamie Raskin to take leadership role on judiciary from 77-year-old Jerry Nadler, but rejected AOC's elevation on oversight in favor of Jerry Connolly, a 74-year-old with esophageal cancer. Jesus Christ. I mean, you also have to always have one Jerry, one Jerry, I always say. So Jerry Nadler for Jerry Connolly. Basically, it's just very, very depressing. Everyone should read this article in full from the Prospect. But Dayen does a really good job of not being super opinionated. He is opinionated. I know where he stands, but it's also nice because he's kind of a stenographer about where Democrats are at. He earns their trust by being fairly fair, understanding and breaking a lot of things down for us plebes. And if David Dayen is they don't have anything, what the fuck are they doing? We're cooked. We are cooked. You're not even going to allow the best thing that happened to you in, 30 years, which is AOC, in her ability to communicate and her ability to lead. She enjoys a lot of support, even though we have our critiques. It's what are you going to do? They don't want to win. They really don't want to win. And so this is the thing. This is the thing about the Democratic Party writ large. You're yeah, we need to get more combative. We absolutely need to. I do think being more combative will help. I just don't know what will wrest the keys from the car from these old geezers. I mean, they all lied to us about Joe Biden being fit for office. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.